Hey there everyone, and welcome back to another crypto market update. My name is Brendan from Crypto 101, and yesterday the crypto markets had one of the larger moves that we have seen in quite a long time. So in today's episode, I want to make sure that we break down everything that has happened, kind of the catalysts that were involved in this, what's going on in the current space of crypto, and then of course, my thoughts moving forward. So we're going to be covering both the charts and the news in today's episode. So all that we ask is that if this sounds interesting to you, consider hitting that like button, consider hitting that subscribe button, and if you really like the content that we make, then check out those links in the description down below. But let's go ahead and kick things off here with the charts, because that seems to be what is grabbing most people's attention. You know, why is the crypto market flushing in such a volatile way? And while Bitcoin has held on, relatively well, again, it saw a little bit of volatility where it's down around 3.8% yesterday. Even today, it's down around 1.5%. But it really is the altcoins that are getting hit harder. And you can kind of see on this watch list on the right side of my screen, you can see that a lot of these altcoins are really what got hit. We look at Chainlink rejecting off the highs. We can look at other things like Matic and Optimism, and Avalanche and Near, and just about any single altcoin. It's not like it's just one. It's pretty much altcoins across the board are down double digits, and many of them are down 10, 20% yesterday, and a lot of them are still down another 5 to 10% today. And, in order to kind of, understand why this is happening, I think we just need to go and kind of look at the holistic picture here. And that really has a lot to do with the large caps. So, just briefly before we talk about all the news, because there is a lot, I want to make sure that we talk about, the $1.5 billion in liquidations that we've seen. We also have a really big day ahead of us with everything that's happening with Microsoft. Marathon continues to buy more Bitcoin. MicroStrategy continues to buy more Bitcoin. And then I want to wrap this whole segment up by really talking about the supply issues that Bitcoin is having, and why I'm really not too concerned despite what we get in the short-term future here. So, before we get into all of that, let's just briefly look at the charts and understand that, hey, Bitcoin has had a hard time breaking and holding above $100,000. We've had a few candles, very, very briefly on this daily chart push us above 100K, but we kept getting rejected on multiple different occasions. So Bitcoin was struggling to break to new all-time highs above 100K, which is a fairly large psychological resistance zone. Ethereum came all the way up to its cycle high and rejected this point. We also saw other key leaders like Solana come up to their all-time highs, if we really zoom out here, and reject over here. We saw even XRP, which pushed its place into the number 3 and number 4 spot for largest crypto. This thing actually even came up and rivaled towards its all-time high of around the $3 mark. It also rejected here. So when we're looking at the general altcoin space and wondering why this is happening, well, it's because there's a lot of resistance. And, up until recently, we had just been going parabolically to the upside. And we haven't really seen a true pullback yet. We've seen a couple little things here. We've started to see volatility increase, but I think the real reason behind this pullback is the fact that we went on this massive tear. I mean, Bitcoin went from $50,000 to $100,000 in about a 2-month window. And many altcoins were able to do even more impressive moves of, 2, 3, 400%. And now we're finally reaching a point where a lot of these large cap altcoins are at massive levels of resistance, i.e. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP. And now what we're starting to see is just some profit taking at those all-time highs or at those cycle highs in the case of Ethereum. So is that anything too concerning? I would say the answer here for me is no. Historically speaking, and this has been something that we've chatted about on the channel quite a bit, is that we see roughly around a dozen double-digit pullbacks inside of a bull market for Bitcoin. That means Bitcoin's pulling back 10, 20, 30% before continuing to a new all-time high afterwards. For altcoins, that move is about doubled. So we see, altcoins go down 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50% before hitting new all-time highs in a bull market. And that's just the norm. And it's volatile, and I know it stops a lot of people out, which is where we come into this liquidation bloodbath, or this crypto bloodbath, as they're calling it in the headlines. But, over $1.5 billion was liquidated yesterday during this pullback that we saw. And it was nasty. It was from $101,000 all the way down to $94,000. We saw this really, really steep sell-off over here. And I'm going to kind of measure this out. Where from top to bottom, this was just over $7,000. And we saw about a 7% move downwards in Bitcoin. Again, we double that. A lot of altcoins were down 14, give or take anywhere from 10 to 20%, around 14 to 15% on average from top to bottom. And so what this is doing is, this is a lot of liquidations, and there's going to continue to be more because yesterday it was getting bought up. Now it's heading back down, but there is a lot of support over here on Bitcoin. So again, looking at the bigger picture, could we go further? Yes, but I still don't think it's anything awful. In fact, this is all kind of stuff to be expected at such a big resistance level. So I will be happily buying the dip on not only Bitcoin, but a lot of altcoins. And when it comes to the kind of news side of things, some big things that we're kind of having happen right now is that Microsoft shareholders are going to be voting on whether Microsoft should be acquiring Bitcoin. And I think they want to use about 1% of the company's cash or asset allocation, and they would kind of make that dedicated towards Bitcoin. Now, the board has come out and said, hey, we really don't want to do this. Shareholders are now voting on this. It doesn't look like it has the biggest chance of getting approved. Yesterday, I was asked the question, could this double the price of Bitcoin if it happens? And I think the answer there is no. Microsoft does not have enough capital to double the price point of a $2 trillion asset. It would certainly be a really positive thing, and it would set a really big standard. And I think we're all hoping and voting that this will happen, right? We're all rooting for it. However, we're going to find this out really soon. I think it would set the standard and kind of the precedent for other US-based tech companies to be acquiring and holding and accumulating Bitcoin. However, for the moment, it looks like it has, probably less than a 25% chance of actually happening. I'm certainly rooting for it. This is going to be a big thing that we're keeping an eye out on for everyone that is inside our Crypt Nation communities. We're going to be keeping a close eye on this because it is getting voted on today, and I think everyone should be keeping an eye on it. In other big news, we saw that Marathon acquired over 11,774 Bitcoin. This comes out to around $1.1 billion, and this is right after Michael Saylor came out, who was kind of talking about this, who just, I think, acquired another $2 billion plus worth of Bitcoin. And so these big names are continuing to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. And what this is really doing is affecting the supply of Bitcoin because the ETFs are also just gobbling up Bitcoin through the inflows. And so what we've seen over here, this is a really cool chart from Cryptos R Us, just saying, hey, Bitcoin's balance on exchanges is dwindling. And this is exactly right. This was only shown about 1 year back, that you can see that as the balance of Bitcoin, the supply of Bitcoin on exchanges is becoming more and more scarce, the price is appreciating, right? This is the most basic law of supply and demand. Now what we're seeing is that, even if we zoom out from the last year, what if we look at the last couple of years going all the way back to even the end of 2021? Well, we can see that the amount of Bitcoin, the supply of Bitcoin on exchanges, it is getting more and more rare. It is increasingly more scarce. There is less Bitcoin circulating around out there because so much is getting removed from the supply. Again, economics 101. If supply of something decreases and demand increases, well, that should make the asset appreciate in value. And that's exactly what we're seeing over here in Bitcoin, as supply has been just tanking and leaving exchanges, but the price of Bitcoin has actually been rapidly increasing. And, these two are definitely very correlated, and they have been, especially since the market has bottomed and these ETFs and other companies have continued their buying pressure. So looking forward, what can we expect? What is my outlook over here? Well, I think we can get some choppy, nasty price action. And, it might actually be due for a little bit more of a correction. However, even if we dip further over here, I still think that the overall trend, and I'm zooming all the way out here, the overall trend is up and to the right. And we have a saying over here where we like to go, the trend is our friend. So despite us having any kind of dip, even if we dip significantly further from this, it's possible we see a little bit of a retracement. Even if we dip further, we are looking at buying the dip. We're overall bullish. And, we do believe that it's inevitable for Bitcoin to eventually break back above 100K. So we're not saying it's going to happen today or tomorrow, but we do believe that eventually Bitcoin is going to conquer that 100K resistance level. And that's the bigger picture that we're kind of looking at here. So in the day-to-day, could we move up and down just kind of all over the place? Yes. Even in the US, we have big numbers coming out for CPI and inflation and unemployment and all these big things. So it's expected to be quite a volatile week. And, even with this, we are looking at some buying opportunities on Bitcoin as it has a big support level around the low $90,000 zone. So that's going to go ahead and wrap us up for today's market update, everyone. We hope all of you enjoyed. And if you did, again, consider hitting that like button, consider hitting that subscribe button, and we'll be able to see all of you soon. Now, also, if you want to join some really great crypto communities, we got all sorts of links in the description down below. My good old buddy, Bryce Paul, wrote a book called The Crypto Revolution, which you can go ahead and get. You can also join us at Crypt Nation, which is a great place with thousands of other like-minded crypto individuals where we're talking about what we're interested in, new coins, new concepts, existing ones. We really just talk all things crypto in there. And you can find a lot of other people who are passionate about the same stuff that you are. So we're going to have links to all that in the description down below. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see all of you at the same time, same place next week.